Welcome to Mr. Giant Reacts and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant, as you all know, and Ting. And this one, I just happened to see this one, and I think it was really interesting, and I think you all might enjoy seeing about this here too. This one is called "The Genes of This Tribe Carry DNA of a Third Unknown Human Species." Oh man, an unknown human species? Man, that piqued my interest like crazy. I want to know what it is. I want to know what's going on here. I want to see what the vibe is here. Let's YouTube and see what they say about this here.
Humans have drastically evolved a great deal throughout the years. Human ancestors first showed up on Earth 5 million years ago, and Homo sapiens appeared on the Earth's surface roughly 300,000 years ago. From wild apes to humans, we've come a long way. Civilization began as far back as 4000 and 3000 BC, and the massive industrial revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries took humanity to an entirely different level. Today, almost 56% of the world is urbanized. A large chunk of the global population dwells in modern cities equipped with state-of-the-art facilities. We now have access to deep seas and vast space as well, like we never have before. Throughout history, we've witnessed multiple breakthroughs in the fields of medicine, transport, communication, weaponry, and several more. Regardless of its downsides, the modern world has put our lives at ease and given us relief on a considerable scale. However, it seems people never evolved beyond a certain point. They have remained isolated from the rest of the world, and although the idea of tribes does sound primitive and fictional in this day and age, you would be astonished to know that there are actually plenty of tribes and tribal areas that are scattered all across the globe, where peculiar rituals are followed even to this day. While most of these tribes are open to the world for interaction and exploration, a few are not the biggest fans of foreign visitors and would punish the trespassers to their vicious liking. Today, we're going to tell you about 15 of the scariest tribes you do not want to meet at any.
Okay, check this out. Let's think here. Modernization. Could that have slowed down the evolution of man's physiology? If the world was still primitive, would we have evolved in a different direction? That's like a cool question to ask there. We have evolved technologically, we have industrialized everything, but there's no real changes going on. Makes you wonder how many other species of humans that was around until industrialization started coming. And we didn't have the technology to discover these species, and they weren't able to evolve as quickly, and then they just die out. So this is going in a sort of different direction. They talk about 15 different tribes that we don't know about. I thought it was going to speak mainly of the tribe that is an unknown species, but nevertheless, this is going to be interesting because, like he said in the video, we don't think of tribes anymore as it used to. But there's still some, and it's cultural. So I'm going to enjoy this bad boy anyway.
Any cost. The North Sentinelese. North Sentinel is a small island off the main shipping routes, surrounded by a shallow reef with no natural borders. The death of an American tourist who illegally visited the isolated North Sentinel Island drew the world's attention to the small island's reclusive inhabitants. They are one of the few largely uncontacted groups still existing, and they owe their isolation to a combination of factors, which includes geography, Indian government protection laws, and the tenacious defense of their land and privacy. They haven't been completely isolated, but over the past 200 years, outsiders have visited the island several times, and those encounters frequently turned violent for both sides. On North Sentinel Island, there are likely between 80 and 150 people. However, there may be as many as 500 living there. The latest known murder is that of an American tourist and priest by the name of John Allen, who was trespassing on the island singing hymns before going missing in 2018. It's speculated that he was killed and buried like two Indian fishermen were in 2006. The Sentinelese people are related to other indigenous groups that are part of a group of islands in the Bay of Bengal off the coast of India. Still, though, they've been cut off for so long that their language is incomprehensible to other Andaman groups, like the Ong and the Jarawa. The Sentinelese make all manner of crafts and other things in order to aid with their existence, and in the middle of the 1990s, salvage crews anchored close to the island would report hearing singing and bonfires on the beach at night. However, no part of the Sentinelese language is currently understood by outsiders. On an improvised raft, an escaped prisoner did attempt to escape to the Great Island in 1896. On North Sentinel Island, he was washed ashore. A few days later, a colonial search party would discover his body covered in arrow wounds and with his throat slashed open.
Wow.
In 1974, a National Geographic film crew would join in, and the director received an arrow wound to the thigh. In 1975, the Sentinelese would warn the exiled King Leopold III of Belgium to stay away, using arrows as he approached the island on a boat tour. The Caribs. At the time of the Spanish conquest, the Lesser Antilles and a portion of nearby South American coast were home to the Carib, an American Indian people. It was from these people that the Caribbean Sea would receive its name, and the English word cannibal is derived from their name. The term Caribbean is now used to refer to a linguistic family including many related Indian languages that are spoken in South America, in addition to the Antillean Carib language. After driving the Arawak out of the Lesser Antilles, the warlike island Carib immigrants from the mainland were growing their empires when the Spanish arrived. An unusual sight is that only the men spoke the Carib language. The women actually spoke Arawak. Women were obtained through raids on other populations and used as slave wives. The male captives were then killed and subjected to torture. Carib tribes inhabited the Guineas and regions south of the Amazon River on the continent of South America. Most were less aggressive than their Antillean relatives, though some were warlike and were allegedly cannibals. They farmed cassava and other crops, lived in small autonomous settlements, and hunted with blowguns, bows, and arrows. They had a typical tropical forest people's culture. On the forested Andes slopes near the Venezuelan-Colombian border, other Carib-speaking tribes would be discovered that appeared to be similar to the Guianan Carib. At the Xingu River's headwaters in central Brazil, there were other Carib-speaking tribes that all inhabited the region, along with parts to the southwest. The Chimbu.
Okay, this one is something I know about. Okay, because there was a Carib tribe or community on Grenada, and now they were known, like he said, as the warlike tribe, and a myth, folklore, if you wish, stated that the Caribs were warlike and they were chasing the Arawaks down through the Caribbean, killing them and eating them. Now, they don't know, I don't remember if they explained why per se, but one of the explanations that they gave was that the Caribs thought that eating the enemy, which was the Arawak, would make them stronger warriors. You know, that's one thing that was said about them. Now, here's something interesting about them. There's a place in Grenada called Sauteurs. And in Sauteurs, or Sauteurs like we say, there's a place called Leapers Hill. And I think it was either the Spanish or the English, if my history serves me right. The Spanish or the English were trying to capture them and enslave them, and a few thousand of them jump over this hill to the dead, men, women, and children, which is in effect kind of wipe out the whole community of people. Now, in Grenada, I don't think there is any full-blown or pure-blood Caribs left, and there's not very many left there. Now, I know that there was it St. Lucia or Dominica? I'm not sure which one of them, but there's still a community of them there. They still do the cassava growing and stuff like that, and they keep up with the traditions. They were always depicted in our carnival. You know, they call them wild Indians in the carnivals back home, and people would dress up in their traditional outfits and stuff, and you know, dance the calypso music and soca music and carry on like that. But if you ever get a chance to study up on that, it's a very interesting little history there. Now, what I learned here is that they have defined them in South America too, and which is not quite surprising because these were like nomadic type tribes that just traveled through the islands. So what it wouldn't be that it wouldn't be that surprising that they also went into South America, they into the Amazon, but. That's something, and as a matter of fact, it's been told to me that we do have. But here's a funny story. When I was a kid growing up, I used to hear stories from older folks, family members, that we have the Arawak Indians and ancestry in us, and I was like, yeah, at least I'm not the cannibals. But come to find out, it was the Carib that was professed to be part of my heritage, which is quite interesting there and thing. Let's keep watching that. God, this is cool. This is cool. Let's go.
The Chimbu tribe is native to a secluded, rugged, mountainous region about 7,800 meters above sea level in the Chimbu, Wagi, and Koro valleys of Papua New Guinea. The weather is moderate there, with an annual precipitation that ranges anywhere from 250 to 320 centimeters, and they were first given the name Chimbu in the 1930s by Australian explorers who heard the word Simbu in the Kuman dialect. Simbu is an expression of surprise in the Kuman language. The people of Chimbu typically speak Kuman. 180,000 people are estimated to live in the Simbu province, occupying an area of 6,500 square kilometers, although the Chimbu tribe follows no particular set of beliefs and has no organized worship methods. They do see the sun as a spirit of fertility. However, they also heavily believe in the supernatural and that the souls of their ancestors continue to linger in the area. Over time, missionaries instilled Christian beliefs in the Chimbu people, who eventually convinced them to give up many of their inhumane practices, such as killing pigs in big ceremonies and turning young boys into men's cults. Polygamy was a typical routine that's now practiced much less due to its discouragement from missionaries. And they're also sometimes called skeleton people, and here's why. The people of the Chimbu tribe use clay and ash to paint themselves as skeletons. Initially, they practiced this to intimidate intruders and foes, and of course, how they look with their painted bodies is a spine-chilling sight. Now they perform this tradition in an event known as Sing Sing, whereby kith and kin are gathering together to celebrate their culture and traditions. The performers paint bones and skulls on their bodies and dance at the event, and up to 100 tribes partake in the ceremony every time. The Maasai.
Oh, that stuff would be really interesting to see, man. See, that's the kind of travel I want to do too. I want to go see these ancient upkeeping of traditions like that, and stuff like that's quite intriguing to me. But to think that after all these years, people are still maintaining that, and I know to a certain degree on my island, we maintain a certain amount of our ancestral traditions and stuff stemming from Africa. You know what I mean? And in some of the other islands, stemming from the Caribs and the Arawaks and other native tribes that were on the island there. It's kind of interesting to go check it out. There was one thing I remember that was really popular as a kid, and I think it's only in the sister island of Carriacou that is done more. It's called stick fighting, and it was a tradition done by tribes, way back in the time. And you have this long stick, and you get into battles and stuff, and fight the people, fight each other. But they had turned it into some kind of a dance because it's inhumane to beat somebody to a pulp with a stick. You know what I mean? But it was a dance when I was a kid. You see people like black. We used to do it as kids too. So that was pretty interesting. I partaked in some little traditional stuff there.
The Maasai is a famous African tribe. The people are indigenous to the Nile River and inhabit northern Tanzania, plus northern, southern, and central Kenya. Their origins can be traced back hundreds of years. They have tall and robust physiques and are known for their valor, courage, and excellent hunting skills. The Maasai people presently are comprised of more than 1 million in population, covering an area of about 160,000 square kilometers. The Maasai speak in their own unique language, which is so popular that the surrounding communities have also gone to adopt it as well. They are a monotheistic religion worshipping a god, namely Enkai, who they believe to be benevolent. However, they do not actually believe in the afterlife. Therefore, when a person dies, they simply cover their dead body in ox blood and leave it for the animals to devour, which can be off-putting and seem quite odd to an individual. The most intriguing thing perhaps about the Maasai is their high jumps that seem to defy all laws of physics. The jumping dance holds immense importance amongst the Maasai and is called Adamu. The tribesmen primarily perform this dance in order to exhibit their strength and abilities. The one who jumps the highest is considered to be the strongest of all. It's an opportunity for all the male members of the tribe to showcase their skills, as well as asserting their dominance. Cattle is the wealth of the Maasai people. They have strong bonds with their animal herds, believing that it would bring their families prosperity, and the Maasai men actually steal cattle from their neighbors. Another surreal age-old tradition of the Maasai is actually drinking cow blood. They believe that the cow blood replenishes their bodies with nutrients and energy, and before the older folks had prohibited it, the Maasai actually used to hunt down lions in groups, expressing their sheer bravery and fearlessness. The Mercy.
I'm not drinking no blood. No, I'm not drinking. No, 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 no. That, you know, when I was a kid, you get a little cartoon. I didn't even like the taste of that so much as I like the taste of some of the animals' blood. You know what I mean? No, 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 no.
The Mercy tribe's members reside in the bordering Oman Valley of the Sudan and southern Ethiopia. They're completely cut off from the outside world and have killed hundreds of visitors who have tried to enter into their community against their will. These individuals number roughly 10,000 in total, and the Maasai tribe continues to practice its ancient customs to this day. To prevent people from giving them the evil eye, women of the Maasai tribe wear a disc that's made of wood or clay on their lower lip as a form of body modification. The Maasai tribe lives in a problematic area of Ethiopia and is one of the world's strangest and most aggressive tribes. The Maasai men, who are all, in fact, warriors, live by one motto: it's better to die than to live without killing.
There's a stick
Boys are
fighting.
brought to Maasai from an early age, understanding that a man should live in battles and dangers, because
See?
Maasai worships the spirit of death.
That's exactly.
A Maasai man has dedicated his entire life to grazing cattle, engaging in stick and ball combat, and conducting ambushes and raids on their neighbors. They have been doing it partially out of habit, and partially for the sake of production, and also partially for the sake of courage. And in order to support this courage, they do have one fundamental benefit. There are actually machine guns that are available from nearby nations experiencing armed conflicts like the Sudan and Somalia, and a Maasai man does try to purchase an AK-47 as soon as possible, even though the most recent models cost 30 to 40 cows, rather than the outdated models that cost 8 to 10. The Karubo. The Karubo are also referred to as clubber Indians due to their use of war clubs. They inhabit the areas near the junction of the Itu and Itakwa rivers in the Javari Valley. More than 200 people, most of the population, continue to live in seclusion while hopping in and out of different places. After numerous tries, the Funai finally got in touch with the small group of Karubo Indians in 1996. The Karubo began to visit the Matisse Indian villages and the Funai campouts in the forest after encountering the attraction team. The group is currently split between two communities on the lower Itu. The Brazilian explorer Sidney Passalu, who made the initial contact with this tribe in the western Amazon basin in 1996, and a journalist by the name of Paul Raphael, are the ones who are mainly responsible for everything that's known about them. The tribe is one of the few groups of people who are still living in complete isolation from modern society, even though they have occasionally engaged in violent conflict with their nearby communities. The tribe has killed numerous government employees who have ventured into the Amazon basin. A branch of the tribe has about 200 members, while the leading group will have about 150. After some members of the groups demanded to communicate with some nearby settlements, while the majority did not, they had a split and a division would be caused. The Suri. The Suri are agro-pastoral people who live in parts of South Sudan's neighboring South Sudan and Ethiopia's West Omo Zone of the Southern Nations and Nationalities and Peoples Region, SNNPR. In the southwest of Ethiopia, there are roughly 34,000 Suri people. They go by the name Suri and are divided into two groups, the Termaga and the Kai. A third group, the Balisi, or Kachipo as they're sometimes known, also live in part of the Republic of South Sudan and frequently cross the border to pursue their interests due to trade, intermarriage, or the sporadic search for better pastures during the dry season. And they speak a slightly different language. The supreme sky deity among the Suri people is known as the name Tumu. The Komoru is an intermediary between people and Tumu, the sky god responsible for rain and fertility. However, no publicly held religious services in Suri are dedicated to Tumu. Clan-line ancestors are acknowledged to possess remarkable abilities and impact the well-being and future of current individuals. 200 to 300 Suri people have been converted to the evangelical Christianity in the past 15 years, mainly in the town of Kibish, and among those who left the region to pursue higher education. Donga, a form of stick fighting that combines martial arts,
There you go.
rituals, and sport, is performed by men and has historically been used to attract women and find wives. They wrestle while wearing little to no clothing, and the brutal fights occasionally end in fatalities. Battles will typically occur between Suri villages, with anywhere from 40 up to 2,500 inhabitants. The fights aim to get young men used to bloodshed, which leaders believe will come in handy if they clash with other tribes and give them a chance to attract a partner. The Chukchi. The Chukchi, a Siberian ethnic group, first interacted with Russians in the 17th century. Their traditional way of life was based on raising reindeer and hunting down marine animals. In the 1930s, the Soviet state forcibly captured them, and assimilation pressures increased due to subsequent industrial development. The Chukchi Autonomous Okrug Soviet declared autonomy in September of 1990, and in March of 91, it decided to break away from the Magadan Oblast. Their Russian Constitutional Court would endorse the right to secede in May of 1993. Every object, whether living or inanimate, is given a spirit according to the Chukchi religion. The spirit may be malicious or beneficial. A dualistic cosmology is revealed in a few Chukchi myths, and the Chukchi people were feared by the nearby tribes when Russian colonists first entered them because of their fierce warriors. Furthermore, the indigenous population had no intention of submitting to the invaders. The Chukchi are an intriguing group of people. They view themselves as being true humans and consider the nearby populations to be inferior human beings. The Russian colonists were treated with the same attitudes. The precise date of the first contact is actually unknown and cannot be verified, but according to one of those theories, it would take place in 1642, close to the Alazia River. The Cossacks actually knew that some fearsome people lived nearby. Other communities told them about their long-running conflict with the Chukchi. Ivan Arastov and Dmitry Zairan were two Cossack chieftains that did not take the rumors very seriously, and when the Cossacks and the Chukchi finally clashed, the Cossacks were taken aback. In one such letter that was written by one of the chieftains, it was noted that the battle lasted an entire day and night, and the Cossacks simply did not anticipate facing such bravery and fearlessness, which was attributed to the Chukchi's complete lack of fear of firearms. The Maksahati Tima. The Yanomami Reserve covers nearly 10 million hectares, an area larger than some small countries, about 24 million acres.
And that's beautiful.
This is a tribe of about 100 people who have chosen to live in complete isolation from the entirety of the outside world, which includes other Yanomami tribes that are found within the vast domain. The tribe appears to be thriving and may have even expanded, according to aerial photos that would be snapped in the year 2016. However, this tribe faces the same external severe threats as their Yanomami relatives. Illegal gold mining activities wreak havoc on the reserve's ecosystem, and those who have had interactions with this indigenous tribe have occasionally found their end in bloodshed. The Yafo and more Brazilian tribes. More than 40 tribes in Papua New Guinea might still be unexplored or unfounded. These communities, which are occasionally linked to activities like cannibalism and head hunting, primarily follow the hunter gatherer way of life with minimal contact on the outside world. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. For instance, up until one British explorer would go missing while on an expedition to contact them, the Yafo tribe typically avoided contact with the outside world. He actually did okay, but before being encountered for the first time by Western anthropologists in the 1970s, the Korowai tribe went unexplored for centuries. Like many indigenous groups, the uncontacted tribes of Papua New Guinea are in danger from various factors, such as unrestricted tourism, military aggression, and the possibility of mining and logging operations on their lands. The Moscho Piru.
Man, why don't we just leave those people alone? If a person wants to just go out on their land and stay out there and not come out and deal with us, just leave them people alone. I'm not saying we shouldn't be able to visit them, but don't go try to change them, try to change their religious beliefs, try to change their ideological beliefs. How egotistical can you be to think that what you believe is more superior than what they believe? Just let people live, man. You know, they always have to go in there and say, oh, you're doing this wrong, do this right, blah, blah, blah. If that tribe is thriving out there on its own, leave them be, man. Just let them live. In almost every clip you see here, you see somebody from the outside sitting there with them, you know what I mean? And I believe that a lot of the people who go there go with good intentions. They didn't go to change them into anything else. But then there's those that comes in there with their own freaking beliefs. I want to switch these people around to what? Look at the mess we're living in. We can't get along. No wonder why that one tribe with the Cossacks and them thought they were superior, because they were more in tune to being human. Because a lot of the things we create tend to make us less human. We are so automated right now, you know what I mean? Nobody feels anything. Okay, YouTube is pretty cool and all of that, you know what I mean? For this very reason, that we could learn about people and then just leave them alone. You got things like Facebook and, you know, all these dating sites, and nobody's dealing with anybody as people. It's all over the airwaves, man. It's hard to get to know people if you don't see their expression and know what's going on with them. And this is the kind of life those people are living, you know. They know what's going on. They know how people feel. They could read people, you know what I mean? They could tell when somebody is coming to do them harm or to do them good, or just to be interested in them and leave them where they are. That would be such a good thing if we would do that. But we got to change people. We got to tell them what they're doing is wrong. We got to give them these promises that if they industrialize where they live, it's going to be better. But the only time that happens is when a big company want to get to the gold and to the oil and to all the resources. That we're going to make it better for you. We're going to get rich. You're going to stay where you are. You could keep your little rituals and stuff like that, but as long as you don't do them and interfere with us, or else we're going to teach you how to be and force it down your throat. That's just letting people live, man. Come on. You know, if you keep changing them and making them like you, this world is just going to be a boring world. There wouldn't be new things to learn. I'm sure we could learn something from these people. And I'm not talking about something that would boom industrialization or nothing like that. Just something human, how they treat each other, you know, something, you know, because they're living in there and they seem to be living in relative peace. How are they doing that? What can we learn from them so that we don't keep terrorizing each other? And it's not so much that they're living in complete peace because they fight among the other tribes and stuff like that. But, you know, as a community, how are they getting along? You know, because if according to us, if we don't have those modern amenities, we ain't living the right life. How come they are happy where they are? How come they're happy? We assume they're miserable because, you know, we have all this stuff to make life easy for us, what we might call easy. But even then, a lot of the stuff that we say make our life easy costs an arm and a leg. So most of us ain't having it anyway, and they don't have it at all, and they're happy. Let's get back to this here.
Peru. According to Survival, there are estimated to be about 15 uncontacted tribes in Peru, and all of them are threatened by the illegal logging and oil industries. One of these tribes is the Macho Piru, and according to Reuters, the tribe have historically ignored foreigners, but they have recently begun to show up more frequently due to expulsion. According to the agency, they typically hunt and gather turtle eggs for food, and the government estimates that there are fewer than 800 of them. This is a tribe of nomadic hunters and gatherers who are living in the Amazonian rainforest's far reaches. They're also known as the Cajero people and Nomoli. They reside in Peru's Madre de Dios region's Man's National Park, and in the past they have vehemently opposed interactions with foreigners. The Aw. According to a comprehensive National Geographic article, the Aw are the world's most endangered tribe. Only about 100 of its 600 members are still living nomadic lives in the Amazon rainforests surrounding Brazil's border with Peru. According to the journal, they face near constant threats from illegal logging and wildfires, prompting another tribe to rise to protect them as forest guardians. The Amazon rainforest is home to the Aw, a Brazilian indigenous group. They have about 100 members who are completely cut off from the outside world. They're considered to be in grave danger due to conflicts with logging interests in the area, and this is due to the tribe's incredible survival skills and nomadic lifestyle as hunters and gatherers. Children in the tribe are taught to handcraft their own bows and arrows, and how to hunt from an early age when it comes to food hunting. The Papuan. West Papua, an Indonesian territory off the coast of Australia on the island of New Guinea, is home to about 312 tribes. Australian news would report that the mystery of the uncontacted survivors predominates, with less remote tribes informing remote groups in the highlands. According to Survival, the Papuan people are ethnically distinct from the Indonesians who currently occupy that territory, frequently in the midst of conflict, and those who live in the highlands raise pigs and grow sweet potatoes. The lowland peoples live in swampy and malarial coastal regions and get by hunting and gathering plentiful game. Under the Indonesian occupation, which began in 1963, all of the people would suffer greatly. They have long been the victims of human rights violations and abuses by Indonesian troops, and they're self-sufficient in terms of food and primarily rely on agriculture and pig farming in order to sustain themselves. One of the common foods in the community, along with yam, is pork. The Palawan. According to Survival, there are about 40,000 of the Palawan still in the southernmost parts of the island of Palawan in the Philippines. However, the interior Palawan is still isolated and has little contact with the outside world. According to a nonprofit, they practice shifting cultivation, allowing the forest to regenerate as they move their farmlands from one location to another. However, in recent years, open pit and strip mining have threatened their existence. About 300 members of the Batak tribe in northern Palawan suffer from low rice yields as a result of the government partially forbidding their shifting cultivation. The Palawan people live on the southern tip of the Philippine islands of Palawan, in both the lowlands and the interior's mountainous region. Some people living in the interior are incredibly alone and rarely have contact or interaction with visitors. The destructive mining in Palawan has caused flooding, destroyed forests, and impacted farmland and river siltation. And additionally, it has also destroyed holy sites. The Ayo Rio. This South American ethnic group is one of the last uncontacted indigenous populations outside the Amazon basin in the Americas. The Ground Chaco, a vast forest that experiences some of the world's fastest deforestation rates, is home to the Ayo Rio. Much of their ancestral land has been destroyed by logging, grazing, and
just taking it,
construction
man.
interests, similar to what's happened to many of the other isolated tribes that we've talked about today. In 2004, a group of the tribe would make contact with outsiders after years of avoiding them after their homes would be destroyed by bulldozers. In an effort to regain control of their lands, tribal leaders have collaborated with human rights organizations for decades. However, unlike the bulldozers, progress has been sluggish.
Wow. we sort of extinguishing those people, you know what I mean? That's just crazy. Anyway, I'll leave a link in the description for this video. Y'all could go check it out.